Chapter 1611. After Gong Wei appeared, Jun Ming's entire being became lifeless and cold. If he didn't move, one would really think that he was a dead person. With Jun Ming appearing in such a manner, Tangwa didn't have the mood to properly feel the aura of death in the Death City. Instead, she held hands with Gong Wei and stepped on the weathered human bones as they walked on the uneven ground of the Death City. Jun Ming didn't leave. He chose to stay beside the two of them and would occasionally say a few words. If he didn't talk about matters of the heart, Tangwa and Gong Wei would still pay attention to him. I just want to stay with you for a while. There's no other meaning. After all, you might not come here in the future. Jun Ming felt Gong Wei's vigilance and didn't bother about it. Instead, he said to Tangwa, if the two of you really held a wedding ceremony, I'm afraid that it wouldn't be convenient for me to come to the trading city to look for you in the future, right? The three of them stood on a small hill. It was the only place without human bones. The air here seemed to be fresher. Actually, it's good that you don't choose me, because the Death City is really not a good place. If possible, I also hope that when I'm born, I won't be the city lord of the Death City. Any city lord would be better than the city lord of the Death City. This place is gloomy and filled with the aura of death. After staying here for a long time, it's hard to avoid being affected. I don't know when the new city lord of the Death City will be born. I can't wait to leave this place and find a place with fresh air to stay. Tangwa didn't disturb Jun Ming's soliloquy. As long as he didn't ask her to leave Gong Wei and interfere with her choice and freedom, this was the other party's territory. She could stay wherever she wanted and say whatever she wanted. It had nothing to do with her. Him liking her was his business. Her not liking him was also her business. She didn't owe him anything. There was nothing to say. Don't be sad. It was as if not liking someone who was infatuated with you was a great sin. Gong Wei saw that Tangwa didn't care about Jun Ming's words and didn't waver at all. His heart was slightly relieved. However, he still wanted to leave this godforsaken place as soon as possible. There was a love rival who was constantly by his side and wanted to steal his girlfriend. Just thinking about it made him feel unhappy. If he wanted to blame someone, he could only blame his girlfriend for being too pretty. She always attracted the attention of others. When they got married in the future, he wanted to send some police officers from the city of Sin to guard the city of peddlers to prevent people from using all sorts of excuses to get close to his wife. Gong Wei was secretly planning how to cut off all his future love rivals. Jun Ming continued to express his thoughts. After a long time, he realized that no matter what he said, he was unable to move Tangwa in the slightest, so he stopped. Can we talk in private? A rare smile appeared on Jun Ming's stiff face. I don't have any other intentions. I just really want to talk to you alone. No matter what, I don't seem to have the chance. I had a very good chance just now, but I actually made you unhappy. If you have something to say, just say it. I have a boyfriend, so I have to take his feelings into consideration. It's inappropriate for you to mention it in front of my friend when I'm talking to someone of the opposite sex alone. If I agree, I'll be slapping his face, ignoring his inner feelings, and hurting him. Gong Wei's eyes lit up when he heard this. His worries were unnecessary. Xiaoguo liked him. Chapter 1612. No matter how many love rivals came, the one Xiaoguo liked was still him. He didn't need to do anything else. As long as he loved her and protected her, that was enough. Jun Ming really didn't expect that she could be so cold-hearted to this extent, not even giving him a chance to speak alone. Xiaoguo, I truly like you. Your liking me is just a way for you to vent your feelings. The feelings in your heart don't have much to do with me. Tangwa replied. System. He knew that the host didn't like people. No matter how much he liked her, it wouldn't help. Don't think of using infatuation to tie her down. Don't think of using kindness to make her reciprocate his feelings. Impossible. Why aren't you moved at all? Jun Ming was still a bit unwilling to give up. I'm different from all of you. I hate the aura of death, and I can't leave it. Every time I come to the city of trade to find you, I have to endure the hustle and bustle and the hot aura of living people just to see you. Seeing you will cause a certain amount of damage to my body, but I still want to see you. Did I ask you to come? Tangwa raised her head and asked with an indifferent expression. If I asked you to come, then it's my fault. I owe you. And all of your actions are your own wishful thinking. I never knew that you had such thoughts. What you've done is just to move yourself. It can't move me. Junming stared at Tangua's face. You really don't show any mercy. Because your performance has already affected the relationship between Gongwei and me. In between, I can only choose to use a cold tone to explain this to you, so as to not affect my relationship with Gongwei. Every man for himself, and the heavens take the hindmost. I won't care about your face and hurt someone more important to me. You really are a cold, heartless woman. Junming's voice was cold. Being moved by you, consider it my bad luck. Thank you for the compliment. It's not too late to understand now. System. The host is about to anger me to death. Seeing Tangwa leave with Gongwei, Junming asked, "What's so good about him?" "I think it's good. Everything is good. There's no need to give an example." Finally, Junming stopped following Tangwa and Gongwei. Gongwei still held her tightly and had no intention of letting go. "Xiaogua, did Junming often come to the city of trade to look for you?" Tangwa looked up at him and replied, "I'm not the one you're looking for." Gongwei instantly reacted. That's right. The previous her was not her. He didn't know where she came from, but when she came, his heart had already fallen, and he couldn't get it back. "I'm very happy about what Xiaogua said just now." Tangwa smiled. "Then you have to treat me well. If you don't, I'll be cold and heartless to everyone." "Xiaogua, let's sign a contract when we get married." "What contract?" Tangwa already had a feeling that this man was just pretending to be stupid, but her heart was still beating fast. Sure enough, she heard him say, "Let's sign a life and death contract. If you die, I die. If you die, I die." This way, if she had to leave here one day, he wouldn't have to stay here and live a lonely life because of the Rubik's Cube world. When the Rubik's Cube world sensed that their lifespan was coming to an end, it would automatically give birth to a new city lord. Chapter 16:13. Their departure would not affect this world in any way. All right, Tangwa agreed. She knew that he would definitely think of this. Coincidentally, she also had the same idea. If she did not take him with her, he would probably think of all sorts of ways to kill her. Why go through so much trouble? Both of them were willing to live and die together. It was a good contract. If the system had a face, he would really want to cover it. These two people, announcing their future deaths, were like feeding him food. How despicable. Since that day, Junming did not appear again. During this time, Tangwa and the others tried to contact Gulin. There was still no response from the other party. In the middle of this, Xiayun and Yingxue met up with Tangwa. Fortunately, Brother Xie helped. Otherwise, with my broken body, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to deal with those strange skeletons with high attack power. Yingxue said with lingering fear. She always thought that she was so lucky because she met Tangwa. I wonder how Ming is doing. Yingxue frowned and was very worried. Ming's strength is not bad. Without me as a burden, there shouldn't be any problems. Xiayun and Tangwa looked at each other and did not say anything. The future Di Chunming might disappoint Yingxue. Tangwa took out another cultivation technique book and gave it to Yingxue, indicating that it was of a higher level. This time, she did not explain, and Yingxue did not ask too much. She was not stupid. No one would be so lucky to always meet unusual people who were friends with her. No matter where they went, it was always smooth sailing and there was almost no danger. If there was, then this person himself was a very powerful person. "Thank you," Yingxue said gratefully. "If there's anything you need in the future, Yingxue will not refuse." She was just an ordinary person and a weak person with a terminal illness. Her desire to live was much stronger than ordinary people. As long as there was a chance to live, she would not let it go. As for Tangwa's kindness, as long as she was alive, she would have a chance to repay it. She did not know why a powerful person like Gongwei Tangwa liked to pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger, playing around ordinary people like them. Perhaps the two of them were on their honeymoon. When a month came, Yin Xiaofei appeared on Zhang Li's back. When Zhang Li came out with Yin Xiaofei on his back, he chuckled and said, "This girl is so afraid of stepping on people's bones. There's nothing I can do. This young master is a gentleman after all. Carrying her for a few days is nothing." This time, Yin Xiaofei surprisingly didn't refute. Perhaps she was embarrassed, but she simply laid on Zhang Li's back and buried her head. Tangwa's eyes are sharp. She notices Yin Xiaofei's blushing cheeks and smiles without saying anything. Only a few days. Seeing that Yin Xiaofei's fiery temper was gone, it was obvious that she had been carrying it for almost a month. When Yin Rui appeared, Yin Xiaofei hurriedly jumped down and hid behind Yin Rui. From time to time, she would sneak a peek at Zhang Lu. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Yin Xiaofei was interested in Zhang Lu. Yin Rui didn't notice it because he was in a rather miserable state this time. Fortunately, he managed to escape with his life intact. Di Qinming was the last to appear. He seemed to be in good condition. Tangwa could vaguely feel that his aura had become much stronger. That mysterious person cultivated demonic arts. The city of death was most likely to suit his purpose. It wasn't strange that he had improved. On the way to the city of sin, Tangwa was separated from the others. Chapter 16:14. This time, it wasn't the power of Sin City that separated them. She took the initiative to separate and went directly to Gongwei's place, the most important tower in Sin City. The tower had a comprehensive surveillance system that could monitor everything in Sin City, but only the city lord of Sin City could see it. The police officers of Sin City couldn't easily see everything that was going on in Sin City, and the people who were assigned to Sin City were all criminals. In this 1 month, they only had to do one thing: escape. Once they were caught, they would be locked up in jail. If they succeeded in escaping and weren't caught for a month, they would be rewarded with a large sum of Rubik's Cube coins. If they were caught, they would be sentenced for their crimes. The highest punishment was death by shooting. It was a real death by shooting. If they didn't succeed in escaping, they would be punished with a large sum of Rubik's Cube coins and remain in jail. If they didn't want to take the risk, they could only stay in jail obediently. Don't think that you can sleep peacefully in jail. The people in jail were locked up in groups. No one knew what would happen if they stayed in jail for a month. In this jail, as long as you didn't escape, no one would care. But at the same time, no one would send water or food. So many people had no choice but to escape. Plus, no one didn't want to get the millions or tens of millions of Rubik's Cube coins as a reward. If there were benefits, there would be people chasing after it. Escaping from jail was actually very simple. Anyone could do it. Tangwa was in Gongwei's lounge. She leaned against the sofa leisurely and drank the tea that Gongwei had just made for her. She looked around. Where's Zhang Lu and Xie Yun? Needless to say, Zhang Lu must have gone with Yin Xiaofei. On the surface, he doesn't seem to care, but he's actually worried that something will happen to Yin Xiaofei. Tangwa said with a smile. Who knows, maybe the entertainment city will really be renovated soon. Even if it's renovated, it's still not safe to play. Gongwei took a cup of water and sat beside Tangwa. In this lounge, there were many big screens. On the screens, every corner of Sin City was monitored. Under normal circumstances, as long as the outsiders didn't do anything that would affect the safety of the Rubik's Cube world, they wouldn't care. No matter what they did, Gongwei would not care. He was not interested in observing how they escaped. It was a very boring thing. For the first time, Gongwei felt that this quiet and depressing place was a little different. The arrival of the woman beside him made him feel as if his entire world had brightened up. See where Xie Yun is. Tangwa suddenly remembered that Zhang Lu had a reason not to come here, and Xie Yun also followed those people to join in the fun. Gongwei raised his hand, and one of the big screens automatically moved in front of them. Xie Yun's figure appeared inside. Not only Xie Yun, but also the Yin siblings, Zhang Lu, Ying Xue, and Di Qinming. Fairy Piaomiao and Wanderer Silver Ring didn't seem to be among them. That's right, these two are immortal cultivators. In fact, there are quite a few immortal cultivators here. Under normal circumstances, inexperienced people who had just arrived in Sin City would be taken away by the police and thrown into jail. As for Fairy Piaomiao and Fairy Piaomiao, they already had experience. As soon as he appeared in Sin City, he quickly ran away. Because of Xie Yun and Zhang Li's presence, Di Qinming and his group were not taken away by the police. Chapter 16:15. Currently, they were fleeing for their lives. With the two of them joining them, it was indeed much easier for them to escape. Zhang despised Yin Xiaofei for being slow, so he carried her on his back. Yin Xiaofei didn't resist. From the image, one could see that her cheeks were red. Yin Rue, who was following the two of them, was dumbfounded. Hey, Zhang, can you put my sister down? Taking advantage of the gap, Yin Rue couldn't help but pat Zhang Yu, asking if he could put his sister down. Zhang had no intention of putting her down. Instead, he said casually, Xiaofei is slow. If I put her down, can you carry her as her brother? Yin Rue was speechless. He wanted to carry her, but he wasn't fast and couldn't compare to Zhang Li. At this moment, he seemed to have realized something. He pulled Zhang Li's collar and said through gritted teeth, Kid, are you having designs on my sister? Hearing this, Yin Xiaofei quickly buried her face. Seeing this scene, Yin Rue felt as if a well-raised cabbage was about to be eaten by a pig. His face was full of pain. Brother Zhang is quite a nice person. Although he's dressed up and doesn't look like a proper person, he's a very nice person. Yin Xiaofei was afraid that Yin Rue wouldn't agree and dislike Zhang, so she quickly put in a good word for him. Yin Rue was a little sad. Indeed, a grown girl couldn't be kept at home. And because they were still on the run, Zhang Li was able to protect Yin Xiaofei, so he couldn't get angry. If not for Zhang Li's help, the two siblings would indeed be in a very difficult situation. As for Yingxue, it was Di Chunming who held her hand at first. Even if Di Chunming was very talented and had the help of a mysterious person, he had only been cultivating for a few short months. It was still a little difficult to deal with this kind of all-around pursuit, especially the weapons in the hands of the police officers. Those were real weapons. If they were careless, they could be seriously injured. Luckily, Xie Yun was there to help, so the two of them weren't in such a difficult situation. Even if Yingxue was an immortal cultivator, her body was still very weak after running for a long time. Di Chiming had no choice but to carry her on his back, which was very strenuous. When the Sin City police officers caught up to them, he was unfortunately shot in the leg. This time, he couldn't carry Yingxue. Ming, how are you? Yingxue's eyes were red. She quickly took out gauze and wrapped it around Di Chunming's wound. Seeing the bullet deeply embedded in his flesh, her tears fell. Ming, I didn't expect this place to be so dangerous. If I had known, we wouldn't have come. This place did not belong to ordinary people like them. Although there were many opportunities, there were even more dangers. If she wasn't suffering from a terminal illness, Ming wouldn't have risked his life to save her. It's okay. I can handle it. Di Chunming smiled and comforted her. Shuer, go with them first. I'm injured now. If you stay with me, you'll get hurt easily. I'll find a place to hide. I should be able to escape this calamity. How could Yingxue listen? Just as she was about to retort, she was knocked unconscious by Zhai Chun. Xie Yun, I know that you are very powerful. Are you willing to help me take Shuer away? Di Chunming supported Yingxue. When we reach the city of transactions, if I am still alive, I will definitely reward you handsomely. No matter how one looked at it, the current Di Chunming was someone who cared about Yingxue wholeheartedly. Chapter 16:16. Even though Xie Yun knew that Di Chunming might bring danger to the Rubik's Cube world, there was a dangerous person behind him. Furthermore, his affection for Yingxue was rather moving. He thought that Di Chunming had that mysterious person behind him, so he shouldn't die. Thinking deeper, Di Chunming should know his identity, which was why he was willing to hand Yingxue over to him. Thinking of this, Xie Yun's heart was no longer touched. Di Chunming, was he plotting something? Okay. No matter what Di Chunming was plotting, Xie Yun still agreed. Previously in the Death City, he and Yingxue had landed in the same place. With his help, Yingxue wouldn't be injured so easily. Be careful. Xie Yun left with Yingxue after reminding her. Tanghua fell into deep thought. She leaned her head on Gong Wei's shoulder and said slowly, What do you think he wants to do? We'll know when we see. Gong Wei couldn't guess what Di Chunming wanted to do. Since Di Chunming knew that Xie Yun and Zhang Li's identities weren't simple, he should know that it would be easier to survive with them. Then why did he take advantage of his injured leg to walk alone? Was it really for Yingxue's sake, or did he have other motives? Tanghua thought that since Di Chunming knew Xie Yun's identity, he didn't just want to drag them down. Let's see what Di Chunming does. Tangwa wasn't worried about the others at all. Since Zhanglu and Xie Yun had chosen to join this team, it meant that they would protect their lives along the way. Di Qinming was the most dangerous person. Gong Wei nodded lightly. At this moment, only Di Qinming's figure could be seen on the big screen. Even with his injured leg, Di Qinming was still very agile and managed to escape the pursuit of many police officers. Looking at the direction Di Qinming was escaping in, Gong Wei suddenly said, "That direction is away from Sin City. Sin City is surrounded by seawater, but no one dares to go into the sea. There are also man-eating monsters in there." Tangwa didn't say anything. Her gaze was fixed on Zhai Chunming. At this moment, Di Qinming had actually escaped for a few days. How much longer? Not much longer. About half an hour, we'll reach the sea. When the time comes, feel free to jump down. With me around, you won't have any problems. All right, you said that there are surveillance cameras all around. Why didn't I notice them? Kid, there are many things that you haven't noticed. The magic cube world is different from the outside world. The things here are mysterious and wonderful. If you can discover them, then can this place still be called the magic cube world? Di Qinming thought that this was indeed the case. All right, hurry up and run. Pretend that you don't know the way and jump into the sea. By then, even the city lord of Sin City, Gong Wei, won't be able to control everything in the sea. In the sea is my place. Hearing this, Di Qinming's heart relaxed a little. At the same time, he became more vigilant towards this mysterious person. This person had a mysterious background and was extremely powerful. If the other party wanted to do anything to him in the future, he really wouldn't be able to resist. It was also this person who told him to go to the sea and swim to improve his strength. That was why he took advantage of being shot and walked alone, taking the opportunity to improve his strength. The city of Sin was under surveillance. According to the mysterious man, the city lords of other cities were also able to observe everyone's activities. Chapter 16-17. He didn't like the role of a lab rat at all. The moment Di Qinming jumped into the sea, the screen in front of Tangwa and Gong Wei turned blue. "The sea is not under my control," Gong Wei said coldly. "Why don't we go over there and take a look?" Gong Wei was worried about Tangwa's future safety. Tangwa held his hand and shook her head. "No need. Since that mysterious person dares to let Di Qinming go to the sea, it means that he has his own reliance. If we go over rashly, we will alert the enemy. The other party may notice that we have already discovered their purpose." Gong Wei sat down again. "Do we still have to wait until the end?" "Yes." Gong Wei was silent for a while. There was a hint of worry on his handsome face. "That dagger is not simple. It can kill with one blow." "It won't kill me. Don't worry." Seeing Gong Wei's expression, Tangwa knew that she couldn't comfort him. "Come here. I have something that I need your help with. After this month is over, you can do this." She waved her hand and Gong Wei leaned over to her side. Tangwa leaned close to his ear and told him what had happened. After Gong Wei heard this, he was a little surprised. "When did you find out?" "Last month." "Are you sure?" "Very sure." "Okay, I'll go when this month is over." The two of them watched the surveillance footage for a while. Gong Wei pulled Tangwa into his arms and asked, "When it's over, we'll get married?" "Yes, I promised you. Why would I go back on my word? Unless you're not obedient. If you want me to be obedient, will you stay with me for a longer time?" Gong Wei asked expectantly. He turned his head and kissed the corner of Tangwa's mouth. "Don't leave so soon." Tangwa returned his kiss. "You even came up with a life and death contract. Isn't that enough?" "It's enough. It's enough. Xiaogua, I think it's enough. I'm very satisfied." Gong Wei didn't know what was going on. He subconsciously said this sentence very quickly. After saying it, he was still a little confused. In his heart, he was clearly thinking, how could it be possible? Even if he were to spend eternity with her, he still felt that it wasn't enough. Why was he able to lie with his eyes wide open? And why was he able to say it so smoothly without using his brain to think? System, look at how scared this guy is. He knew that sooner or later, the host would break him. Tangwa looked around at the surveillance monitors. "Wei, do you usually sit here and watch these surveillance monitors all day?"
Yes.
Tangwa chuckled and pinched his serious face. No wonder you were born with a serious face. Isn't it boring to look at these? I didn't feel bored in the past, but after being with you for a few months, if I were to go back to the past, I might not be able to endure even a day. Move to my place in the future. It's lively and there are all kinds of fun things to do. Looking at these surveillance monitors all day long and watching them escape is really meaningless. Gongwei agreed. Even sleeping with Xiao Guo in his arms was more interesting than watching these boring surveillance cameras. System, do you even need to ask? Tangwa remembered that she had collected many classic movies and hurriedly asked the system to help her find them. Wei, let's watch a movie this month. I brought a DVD, popcorn, and snacks. Let's watch it and eat at the same time. Gong Wei looked at the snacks in front of him, and his serious face trembled. Chapter 16:18. He looked at the monitor in front of him that was already playing a movie. Without asking why, he opened his mouth and allowed Tangwa to feed him popcorn. Have you ever eaten popcorn before? Tangwa asked with a smile on her face. Gong Wei glanced at her and said in a hoarse voice, no. He looked at Tangwa's slender fingers. I didn't taste it just now. Xiaogua, feed me another one. System, you've learned how to push your luck. Tangwa chuckled, pinched another piece of popcorn, and fed it to him. How about this? Do you taste it? What does it taste like? It's sweet and fragrant. Is it good? Xiaogua's food is the best. Then eat more. Tangwa took out another cup of milk tea. She held the milk tea in her hand and pointed the straw at him. This is milk tea. Gongwei took a sip and felt that it was sweet. It was sweet in his mouth and his heart. Although he was the city lord of Sin City, it was easy for him to get whatever he wanted. But he was born to live in this monitoring room in the tower, unless there was a very destructive outsider who violated the rules. Otherwise, his daily life would be to look at the monitor when he woke up, then flip through some books. When he was bored, he would sleep. If there was nothing important, he wouldn't go out. Food, he didn't need food. Toys, he didn't need toys. Enjoyment, he didn't know what enjoyment was since he was born. His duty since he was born was to protect Sin City and the operation of the Rubik's Cube world. When his time was up, he would retire and become an ordinary member of the Rubik's Cube world. As for liking and love, he had heard of it before. But he didn't expect that one day, he would like someone so much that he couldn't wait to be by her side all the time. He wanted to look at her and kiss her lips and eyes. He wanted to accompany her to watch interesting movies, eat crispy popcorn, and drink sweet milk tea. Gong Wei seemed to have opened the door to a new world. He didn't know that he could live like this. He felt that his previous life had been wasted. Host, don't you think that you're rebelling? Shouldn't Gong Wei be the one coaxing you to drink milk tea and feed you popcorn? Upon hearing this, Tangwa glanced at Gong Wei and said, Ah Wei, don't just eat. As a gentleman, you have to feed me too. Gong Wei looked at the snacks. What does Xiaogua like to eat? These are all my favorite dishes. Gong Wei had good taste and finally found a piece of chocolate. He peeled off the packaging and put it into Tangwa's mouth. Just like that, the two of them sat there every day, watching movies and eating snacks. Compared to the miserable state of the fugitives on the surveillance monitors, their days were much more comfortable. When Di Chinming appeared on the screen again, the two of them finally stopped their ambiguous and happy days. Do you feel any changes? Tangwa asked. Gong Wei shook his head. I didn't feel anything. No wonder that mysterious person could hide so deeply. Even with his ability, he was unable to sense any changes in Di Chinming. Dear host, according to the test, Di Chinming's strength should have increased by 1,000 times. The system's voice sounded serious. In just 1 month, his strength had increased by 1,000 times. This was a little scary. The previous Di Chinming was actually not weak. At least, he was much stronger than ordinary people. 1 month's time is almost up. Tangwa retracted her gaze. Away. Remember to do the things that I've given you. Chapter 16:19. Xiaogua, be careful. I'll rush over as soon as possible. Gongwei actually didn't want to leave her side, but he was the most suitable person for this matter. The city of exchanges was very prosperous. There were beautiful skyscrapers as well as ancient mansions. Compared to the other cities, this was not only prosperous, but it was also the largest. The City of Exchanges was also known as the City of Wishes. Anyone who came to the City of Exchanges could fulfill their wishes as long as they had enough Rubik's Cube coins. At this moment, Tanghua, Di Chenming, and the others were at the most prosperous square in the City of Exchanges. Di Chenming looked at Gong Wei, who had been following Tanghua, and asked, "Where's Gong Wei?" "He thinks this place is quite interesting, so he wants to take a look around," Tanghua said casually. Di Chenming didn't mind. He thought that Gong Wei should still be in Sin City. After all, he was the city lord of Sin City. He had heard that the two of them were planning to hold a wedding. They were most likely going back to prepare for the wedding, so it wasn't strange. As for Ying Xue and Yin Rui, they had already realized that Tanghua and Gong Wei weren't simple people. They only had gratitude in their hearts. If it weren't for Tanghua and Yin Rui, they wouldn't have survived until now. Therefore, they didn't mind Tanghua's casual answer. "I heard that you can buy many things you want here." In Xiaofei was looking forward to it. "Shall we go take a look now?" In Nifa City, In Xiaofei was taken care of by Zhang Lug and made a huge fortune. Di Chenming naturally didn't object, and so did the others. "I'm going to buy a dress." Piao Miao didn't want to restrain herself at all. She only used Rubik's Cube coins to go to the lottery. Who knew if she could get the key? "Then I'll go with you." Wanderer Yin Huan was very loyal. He and Piao Miao had a brotherly relationship. The two of them had gone through thick and thin together, so they already had a strong sense of kinship. It was rare to see Piao Miao so happy, so he was also very happy. The two of them bid farewell to Tanghua and left first. Then, Tanghua and the others went to the shops in the City of Exchanges. The shops in the City of Exchanges were divided into two types. The first type belonged to the City of Trade, and the second type belonged to outsiders. In the City of Trade, as long as you have enough magic cube coins, you can pay the rent and don't have to continue to rotate. However, the rent was very expensive. If he stayed for an additional month, he would have to pay millions in rent. This was not something that ordinary people could afford. And this 1 million Rubik Cube coins was only enough for him to stay in the City of Trade. It didn't include food and lodging here. There was only going out and no going in. Even an immortal wouldn't be able to maintain it. As for those who were able to set up shop and live here, which one of them wasn't an old player or an expert from the Rubik's Cube world? Shops owned by outsiders were not as magical. Fortunately, there were plenty of items and the prices were not that expensive. However, the shops in the City of Trade were different. You can have whatever you want, but the price is very expensive. The place they were at now was a shop belonging to the City of Trade. The flow of people in the City of Trade was very large. Even though there were many shops, they still had to wait in line. Ying Xue was the most nervous. After all, she was here to survive. Di Chenming was also a little nervous. His initial goal was to cure Ying Xue. Even though he had more goals now, his original goal of curing Ying Xue would not change. "What do you want to buy?" The counter lady raised her eyelids slightly and asked expressionlessly. Chapter 1620. The strong man in front of her pointed to his shoulder, which was empty. He said, "My arm is broken. I need to buy a new arm." "Okay, do you have any requests?" "I want this arm to be no different from the original, but it's extremely strong. Ordinary knives can't damage it," the man said excitedly. "Any other requests?" "No, an extremely strong, invulnerable arm. It's 2 million Rubik's coins." "Okay." The man took out a card without hesitation. It was a Rubik's coin card. When he arrived at the trading city, he could deposit his Rubik's coins into the card. It would be much more convenient in the future. This card was also very magical. It could be transferred to the card. He transferred 2 million Rubik's coins to the counter lady. Then, the man was invited to the inner room by the counter lady. After about 5 minutes, he walked out with his intact right arm. He looked very happy. Just as he was about to hit the wall, he was reminded by the counter lady, "Vandalism. 1 million fine." The man jumped out in fright, causing the people around him to laugh. Ying Xue's eyes lit up. It turned out that you could buy anything here. Tanghua's lips curled up slightly. Wasn't the Rubik's Cube world good? It could be said that it was excellent. You could buy anything here. Since you could buy anything, shouldn't you pay a price? What do you want to buy? I want to buy a good-looking face. In front of the counter was a woman with a disfigured face. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to look good and have smooth skin. If it's too beautiful, I'm afraid my wallet won't be able to take it. 500,000 Rubik's coins. After paying, the woman was invited in. After a while, she came out. If it wasn't for the same clothes, she would have thought that it was a different person. Her face was indeed beautiful, but it wasn't beautiful. Her skin was very white and smooth. The woman looked very satisfied. The Rubik's Cube world is indeed a good place. It has achieved things that I didn't dare to imagine in my life. To be honest, my face was burned when I was a child. It was very serious. At that time, my family was poor and there was no chance for treatment. Even if we had skin grafts, it wouldn't be able to recover to its current state. After saying that, the woman left happily. Next, they saw many people buying all sorts of strange things from here. Only those with physical defects would come to the counters of the shops in the city of trade. Some old people came to buy their lifespan and youth. Some obese people came to buy weight loss pills. Once they took it, they would immediately become slim without any side effects. Women were mostly here to buy beauty and youth, while men were here to buy power. It was finally Yi Yingshue's turn. I have a terminal illness, and I want to buy medicine to treat it. 1 million Rubik coins. With Xieyun's help, Yi Yingxue never went to jail. In the end, she managed to stay in the city of Sin for a month and earn nearly 10 million Rubik's Cube coins. Together with the Rubik's Cube coins she got from the Fun City, she could be considered a rich woman now. 1 million was not much to her at all. After paying, she was invited in. Not long after, Yi Yingxue came out. At this moment, she was no longer pale. Instead, her face was rosy, and she no longer looked as weak as before. Chapter 1621. She ran to Di Qinming's side and hugged him excitedly. "Ah Ming, I'm done. Let's go out." Di Qinming asked the lady at the counter. "We came from outside. How can we get out?" The lady at the counter raised her head, glanced at him, and pointed outside. "There are many lottery boxes over there. The lucky ones can draw the key you want from the lottery box, and you can open the door to the Rubik's Cube world and leave this place. Then we can play here for a few days and then draw the key," Yi Yingxue suggested. She did not understand why it was so easy. The probability of drawing the key was so low that there was no chance. She let go of Di Chunming and went to Tanghua. "Tanghua, let me treat you to a meal. There should be a lot of delicious food here. Thank you for taking care of us along the way." As for the fact that Tanghua was not an ordinary person, she did not mind at all. She only knew that it was all because of Tanghua that they had been so lucky along the way. No matter what Tanghua's motive was, at least along the way, she had not done anything to hurt them. She had even helped them from time to time. She did not know how to repay this kindness. She turned around and looked at Xie Yun. "Brother Xie, let's go together." "Thank you so much." "Sure." Xie Yun did not refuse and smiled. It was very likely that Di Chunming would target Tanghua. He had to keep an eye on her in case something went wrong. Di Chunming's expression changed slightly. He glanced at Xie Yun and felt that Xie Yun was an eyesore. Because besides him, Shuer had never talked to another man so happily. Was this Xie Yun coveting his Shuer? Of course, the coldness under Di Chunming's gloomy face disappeared in a flash. Xie Yun did not notice it at all. Tanghua, who had been secretly observing him, noticed it. The group of them had a good meal in the market. Yi Yingxue returned the Rubik's Cube coins that Tanghua had lent her and thanked her properly. When they were shopping, she even let Tanghua choose a gift. Tanghua casually chose a pretty dress, and Yi Yingxue did not insist. After finding a place to stay, Yi Yingxue and the rest strolled around the market for a few days. Then they went to the counter and bought many things which they thought would be useful. All women love to be beautiful. Yi Yingxue not only loved to be beautiful, she also thought that strength was very important. Fortunately, she already had a cultivation method, so she didn't need to buy it to increase her strength. Instead, she bought a lot of defensive talismans. Because of the mysterious soul's warning, Di Chunming knew that he might not be able to draw the key from the lottery box. Therefore, He simply spent more than half of the Rubik's Cube coins in his hand to improve his strength. Rue and his sister cared about strength and appearance, so they spent half of their Rubik's Cube coins on this. The rest of the plan was to draw a lottery and prepare for basic necessities. Seeing that 7 days had passed, Yingxue suggested going to the lottery box to take a look. You guys go ahead. I won't be going. When the group was about to leave, Tanghua opened the door and said, these people also knew that she might not want to leave the Rubik's Cube world, or perhaps she was a person from the Rubik's Cube world, so they didn't force her and only nodded to her. Di Qinming's gaze swept past Tanghua's back view as he brought Yingxue to the lucky draw box. Piao Miao Fairy and Wanderer Silver Ring were not in a hurry to draw the lottery. When the two of them arrived at the market, they went crazy buying things and eating delicious food. Chapter 1622. It was as if he wanted to make up for the hard times he had to earn Rubik's Cube coins. He wanted to live comfortably and did not go with them. Every day, he would rush out early in the morning. Tanghua sat in the room and waited. Zhang seemed to have really fallen for Yin Xiaofei. When he went to the lottery box with them, he even turned back and looked at Tanghua with resentment. Tanghua was happy. If Yin Xiaofei really got the key, Zhang would cry beside her. Xie Yun did not follow. He felt that Di Qinming was dissatisfied with him being too close to Yingxue. After thinking for a while, he understood. If it was anyone else in Di Qinming's position, they would probably feel uncomfortable. So, he did not follow. He admired Yingxue and did not have any other thoughts. Di Qinming was really overthinking. He thought that some things might be exposed soon. After they left, he went to Tanghua's room. Gong Wei is not back yet? Xie Yun looked around the room and did not see Gong Wei. What did he do? Something very important. Tanghua smiled and said, don't you like to join in the fun? Why didn't you follow? If I follow, Di Qinming's eyes will probably eat me up. Xie Yun scratched his red afro. I don't want to cause trouble for Yingxue. Tanghua sipped her tea leisurely. She didn't look like she was about to face a disaster at all. Xie Yun could not understand. They were all city lords. At this point in time, they were all confused. They did not find the spy. Of course, the person he suspected the most was Gu Lin. After all, Gu Lin did not appear at this time. They sent a message to Gu Lin, but he did not reply. But Tanghua seemed to have everything in her hands. He was relieved and worried. What should we do next? Wait for the other party to be exposed? Can you solve the crisis if the other party is exposed? Xie Yun asked instinctively. Yes. Hearing Tanghua say yes so simply, Xie Yun choked a bit. Well, if she said yes, then yes. Who told this woman to be the most capable person in the Rubik's Cube world? The most important city in the Rubik's Cube world is the city of trade. The city of exchange was truly mysterious and powerful. Even if he was a very important member of the Magic Cube world, he still didn't know the secrets of the city of exchange. Then I'll go back to my room first. I'm a little sleepy. Perhaps it was because they were used to sleeping in boredom. When they didn't do anything, the city lords of the Magic Cube world would easily feel sleepy. All right, you can go back. Xie Yun staggered out of the door and went back to his room. He lay down and fell asleep in a short while. Dear host, the entire city of trade is now within my monitoring range. If there is any abnormal data or energy intrusion, I will instantly capture it. The system was secretly delighted. After all, it was becoming more and more useful. No one would have thought that a system like him would have the ability to capture the data of the mysterious power. At this time, he was like the Skynet of the city of trade. No, he was even more terrifying than the Skynet. It should be said that he was a concentrated infrared ray. An ant, a fly, or even a small moth would not be able to escape his eyes. Pay attention to Di Qinming and the lottery box. Don't worry, I have already arranged these places. Tanghua replied, if there is any abnormality, immediately notify me. Chapter 1623. Let's talk about the location of the lucky draw box in the trading city. Several people stood at the position of a lucky draw box and began to insert coins or swipe cards to draw. 1,000 Rubik's Cube coins could be drawn once. Each of them, even if they had spent a lot of Rubik's Cube coins before, had a few hundred Rubik's Cube coins left in their hands. Their luck was good. From the very beginning, they had drawn a variety of rare items from the lucky draw box and were very happy. Even Di Chenming, knowing that the lucky draw box might not be able to draw the key, was a little excited to get those rare items. In fact, he hoped that he could draw the key here. With the key, wouldn't it be easier for him to leave the Rubik's Cube world? He had always been afraid of the mysterious person behind him. Almost all of them drew 10, 20, or 50 times. Therefore, it didn't take long for the Rubik's Cube coins in his hand to become fewer and fewer. Why is there still no key? In Xiaofei couldn't help but mutter, the Rubik's Cube coins are almost empty. If there is no key, won't we have to continue to stay here? When Zhangli heard In Xiaofei talk about leaving, he originally wanted to lend her some Rubik's Cube coins, but he quickly swallowed it back. He had quite a lot of Rubik's Cube coins. It could be said that it was endless. But if In Xiaofei insisted on leaving, he was afraid that she would stay here forever. At this moment, he was really grateful. The probability of getting the key from the lucky draw box was infinitely close to 0. I didn't draw the key either. Ying Xue left the lucky draw box. She didn't intend to continue with the remaining Rubik's Cube coins in her hand. If she spent all of it and didn't have the key, then it would be difficult to move again. Me neither. In Rue shrugged his shoulders. Ming, what about you? Ying Xue asked. In fact, she had also accepted this result. A mysterious place like the Rubik's Cube world was not a place where one could enter and leave as they wished. Looking at the dangers she had to go through to get the medicine to cure the terminal illness, it was clear. The key to get out was probably even more difficult to draw. Di Chunming shook his head coldly. I didn't draw it. Although he didn't draw the key, he drew a dagger. The mysterious person told him that this was a divine weapon that was specially used to subdue the top personnel of the Rubik's Cube world like Tenghua. The method of using it was also very easy. As long as the other party wasn't paying attention, the dagger would pierce the other party's heart, and the other party would be destroyed. Those people who were of the same status as Tenghua could not withstand such a stab. It doesn't matter. We've obtained so many good things. It's impossible for us not to pay a price. Ying Xue understood. She held Di Chenming's arm. Ming, let's continue to stay here and save more Rubik's Cube coins. Now that we have the strength and ability, we will be able to get out one day. Which day is that? Di Chenming couldn't help but ask. Tenghua and the others were clearly the city lords of the Magic Cube world. Why did he have to pretend to be an ordinary person and watch them struggle from the side? Watching them walk towards death step by step in order to get what they wanted. Thinking of this, Di Chenming could not help but destroy this place. How many people were trapped here? They were busy, risking their lives to accumulate Magic Cube coins. Wasn't it all to get out? Furthermore, there was no way to draw a key from the lottery box. Wasn't such a result just toying with them? Ming, let's take it slow. There's no hurry. This is a good place. As long as you dare to do it, you can get what you want. I think it's pretty good. Chapter 1624. As for going out, let's be calm. You and I are here. As long as we are together, there's nothing we can't overcome. Ying Xue understood. She had already walked around the King of Hell. Even if it really took a long time to get out, it didn't matter. Even if they couldn't get out, as long as Di Chenming was by her side, she would feel very good. Yes, let's take it slow. In Xiaofei came back to her senses and glanced at Zhanglu. She couldn't help but think that if she went out like this, would she never see Zhanglu again? She wasn't a fool. Ever since Zhanglu appeared, he had been helping her. The two of them already appreciated each other. At the same time, she also sensed that Zhanglu might be the same kind of existence as Tenghua. They weren't outsiders, but people from the Rubik's Cube world. To be honest, if she really got the key, she might be in a dilemma. In just a few short months, she already couldn't bear to leave the world without Zhanglu. This man who looked like a ruffian and indecent when she was helpless and in danger. Although he would say a few words and despise her for being stupid, in the end, he would still carefully protect her and walk out. He wasn't the domineering CEO or the richest man in the world that she saw in the fantasy mirror. Although they often bickered when they were together, in the end, he would always give in to her. No matter how she hit him, he wouldn't fight back. He couldn't say any sweet words, and he always insulted her. But when it came to critical moments, he would always give her a little surprise. If she was really angry, he would put on a ruffian expression and tell her not to be angry. Ying Xue is right. There's nothing bad about this place. Yin Xiaofei nudged Yin Rue. Brother, don't you think so? Yin Rue wiped his face. His expression was indescribable. He understood Yin Xiaofei's thoughts. Wasn't it because she couldn't bear to part with the sloppy man in tattered jeans next to her? But to be honest, it was because of Zhang Li's appearance that his sister could arrive here safely. Although Zhang Li didn't look like much, he was actually a good person. His background was also mysterious. He was more than enough to protect his sister. Yeah, this place is pretty good, Yin Rue said. Actually, he had been thinking about it just now. Even if he really got the key and Yin Xiaofei wanted to stay here, their parents were dead and they could only rely on each other. He might as well stay here. His sister's happiness was more important. The people here were people, and the people outside were also people. They were no longer ordinary people, and living here was pretty good. Yin Xiaofei was secretly delighted. It seemed that her brother had agreed. Zhanglu had been paying attention to the siblings' expressions the whole time. He was so happy that he almost fainted. He walked to Yin Xiaofei's side and said, Girl, if you don't like to wander around, why don't you stay in the city of trade? We can open a shop together. He looked at Yin Rue and asked, Brother, what do you think? Yin Rue, you changed your mind a little too quickly, but you're quite sincere. Among these people, except for Di Chenming, the others were more willing to stay here. Thus, the group of people returned, intending to do as they had said and stay for the time being. Kid, do you believe me now? You won't be able to get the key from the lottery box. Tens of thousands of people had entered this place, but only a few had left, and this was something that had happened many years ago. We still don't know how long those people who went out have stayed here. Chapter 1625. Kid, do you want to get out? Of course. Tell me, what should I do? Di Chenming compromised. There were many magical things in the Rubik's Cube world. He was also tempted by these things. But he didn't want to be a lab rat. He didn't want his actions to be monitored by those people. Those people stood at a high place, looking down on their fight. This kind of feeling made him very uncomfortable. So, as long as he could get out, he was willing to pay any price. The answer is in the dagger you just drew. The mysterious person's voice was also a little excited. As long as you pierce the heart of one of them with this dagger, the Rubik's Cube world will collapse when they die. In such a short time, the Rubik's Cube world can't breed another spiritual object. Kid, what you do is up to you. If you don't want to, then continue to drift here and be watched as a lab rat. Let me think. Di Chenming returned to his room and sat there expressionlessly. Ying Xue looked at him and comforted him. Ming, let's save up more Rubik's Cube coins and draw a few more times. We will definitely get the key. Don't be unhappy. Look, we got what we wanted. Everything has to be done one step at a time. Ying Xue really felt that what they got was far beyond their expectations. So many people died along the way. How lucky they were to survive. Di Chenming looked at Ying Xue's happy face and didn't want to be in trouble with her. The expressions of Yin Rue and Ying Xue made him give up. Shuer, go play with Tanghua and Xiaofei. I'm just thinking about what to do next. He paused and continued. Tanghua helped us a lot along the way. You have to thank her. That's true. Ying Xue felt that it made sense. Di Chenming seemed to want to be alone for a while. She didn't want to disturb him. Seeing Ying Xue turn and leave, Di Chenming took a deep breath. I will find a chance. He took out the dagger. I will stab this dagger into the opponent's heart. Oh, so you have someone in mind? Yes. This was the person he had decided on just now. He felt that this person was the easiest to approach, and also the person he wanted to kill the most. Didn't you give me a beautiful dress before? Tanghua stood at the door and said with a smile, I didn't help you much. You're just lucky. Ying Xue didn't agree. A dress is nothing. We can't go out for the time being. The next lottery will be in about half a year. No matter what, we have to thank you properly. All right then. Tangguo agreed and went shopping with Yingxue. It could be seen that Yingxue was sincere. Zhai Qiming drew the curtains and looked at the backs of the three women who were getting further and further away. The smile on his face deepened. This is a good opportunity. Tangguo, what's wrong? Yingxue asked curiously when she saw that Tangguo suddenly stopped walking. Tangguo's expression was somewhat helpless as she said, Xie Yun told me before that if I wanted to go out, I should take him with me. Look, I forgot about him. We're not far from here. Let's go back and call him. Yingxue and Yin Xiaofei didn't suspect anything. Xie Yun was in a daze when he suddenly heard someone knocking on the door. He got up and rubbed his eyes. He opened the door and asked casually, "Who is it?" Chapter 1626. When Xie Yun saw that it was Di Qinming standing at the door, he was shocked. "It's you. What's the matter?" "I want to talk to you. Can we talk inside?" "Sure, come in." Xie Yun had never thought that Di Qinming would choose to attack him. After all, what he heard from Tangguo was already preconceived. And because of the spell, Di Qinming was unhappy that he took care of Yingxue. When he saw Di Qinming, he thought that he was here to talk about Yingxue. He was probably warning him not to get close to Yingxue. He shook his head and went in. Perhaps he thought that since he was the city lord of the Rubik's Cube world, no one could hurt him. He was defenseless and exposed his back. At that moment, Di Qinming took out a dagger and stabbed it into Xie Yun's back where his heart was. "Ming, what are you doing?" Yingxue shouted. She did not expect to see Di Qinming killing Xie Yun. Di Qinming's hand paused. He had no intention of stopping. Yingxue wanted to rush over, but it was too late. Before Xie Yun could react, he had already felt a chill rise up. It was the aura of death. Di Qinming's face darkened. "As long as we kill him, we can get out, Schwer. You're crazy." Yingxue ran quickly. But could she be faster than Di Qinming? Everyone thought that Di Qinming would succeed, including Xie Yun. It was not that he did not move, but at that moment, he seemed to be locked by a mysterious aura. He could not move at all. He smiled bitterly. Damn it. Who knew that Di Qinming would attack him? He was careless. He was really careless. It was over. If he died, the Rubik's Cube world would collapse. Everyone, I'm really sorry. I've said it before. You can't leave your back to others. Even if you don't have any opponents, it's not absolute. In an instant, Tangguo's voice sounded. Di Qinming also felt that the dagger he was holding could no longer be moved forward. When he lowered his head, he discovered that a slender hand had caught the blade of the dagger between her fingers. For some reason, the dagger that had been shining with a cold light had now become dull, as if it was a blunt knife without a sharp edge. Di Qinming was indignant. He wanted to pull out the dagger, but Tangguo lifted her leg and kicked his knee. The dagger was already in her hand. She held the dagger in her left hand, and the dagger was still trembling in her hand. Before Di Qinming could react to the wooden fan in his right hand, he felt the fan shake in front of him. Then, he felt a sharp pain in his hands. He looked down and discovered that both of his hands had been cut off neatly by Tangguo's wooden fan. Di Qinming, you attacked the city lord of the illusion mirror city, Xie Yun. Since you were bewitched by the evil spirit, I will break your hands forever today. System. This is such a good excuse. It's even worse than taking his life. Di Qinming widened his eyes in disbelief. What did Tangguo know? When he tried to call out to that mysterious person, he realized that there was no way to find him. Finally, his eyes fell on the dagger. The dagger was still trembling. Vaguely, he understood something. The mysterious person was in this dagger. Ming, how are you? Yingxue looked at Di Qinming, who had lost both of his hands. She was very sad. Chapter 1627. But what Di Qinming did just now, she couldn't find any excuse for him. Tangguo could have taken his life, and she couldn't say anything. She couldn't even resist. Schwer, do you like this kind of life? Living here means that we are constantly being monitored. If they say they want our lives, then they want our lives. They are simply treating us like ants. Schwer, I just want to go out. Yingshue's eyes were red and she didn't say anything. Even if she wanted to go out, she shouldn't have killed brother Xieyun. If Xieyun hadn't helped her, she might not have been able to reach the end. Whether it was Tanguo or Xieyun, they were both their benefactors. Just to go out, she had to kill her benefactors. She really couldn't accept it. Why didn't she realize when her Ming had become like this? Brother Chunming, you have changed. You are no longer the person who distinguishes between kindness and hatred. In order to go out, you hurt brother Xieyun and won his life. You are selfish. Di Chunming's expression was numb. Did you hear it just now? She admitted that Xieyun is the city lord of the Illusion Jing city, and she is probably the same as him. Tell me, why are they hiding by our side? Don't they want to see with their own eyes how ants like us struggle? Ying Xue couldn't help but say, Ming, if they really just treat us as ants and watch us struggle, they won't help me. If it wasn't for their help, would we be able to reach here so smoothly? If it wasn't for Tanguo lending me magic cube coins and giving me the cultivation method, would we be able to have the strength we have now? They are strangers to us. Even if they watch from the side and don't do anything, they have no obligation to help us. Schwer, you are too naive. They gave us the lowest cultivation method. Only those they don't care about will they give it to us. Whether it is low quality or high quality, it is given by others out of kindness. Ming, I will take you out. This place is really not suitable for you. Ying Xue bandaged Di Chunming's wound and said, My illness has been cured. Since you brought me in, I will take you out. Ming, this is what we owe them. I may never be able to repay this debt of gratitude in my lifetime. If you want to kill Big Brother Xieyun, even if Tanguo wants your life, she will have nothing to say. Di Chunming's gentle gaze towards Ying Xue suddenly turned cold. You also think that I'm wrong? Ming, go back to your room first. No matter what you become, I will take care of you. When she was terminally ill, Ming didn't leave her. Instead, he helped her find a way to treat her. He even took her on an adventure in the Rubik's Cube world. This was what she owed Ming. Now that he was lucky enough to survive, she would take care of him in the future. Since he wanted to go out so badly, she would definitely work hard to get the magic cube coins and try to get the key as soon as possible to fulfill Ming's wish. Tanguo, Big Brother Xieyun, I'm really sorry. Ying Xue felt that Di Chunming's actions just now made her too ashamed to appear in front of them. Tanguo said, You are you, and he is him. This time you cut off his hand, but the next time, he might lose his life. Ying Xue, you should understand that if that dagger had pierced Xieyun's heart, the consequences would have been very serious. Chapter 1628. Ying Xue nodded heavily. I'll keep an eye on him. Don't worry. From now on, I'll keep an eye on him. I won't let him do anything wrong. She didn't find anything unusual about Di Chunming, but she knew him well. After all, they were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. Once Di Chunming set his mind on something, he would go all the way. He would find a way to get rid of everything that stood in his way. Just like in their world, the opponents of Di's group were all defeated by him step by step. She was wrong. Di Chunming had always been such a person. His grudges were based on the fact that he had no conflict of interest with this person. In the past, he used to be a strategist because he was superior and had no enemies. Naturally, he wouldn't care about trivial things. Now, he was like her, living at the bottom of the Rubik's Cube world. It was more difficult to stand out here than in the ordinary world. Ying Xue sighed, helped Di Chunming up, and brought him back to the room. She could see that Di Chunming was very unwilling, but because the mysterious person was controlled by Tanguo and he had lost his palms, Tanguo's fan not only broke his palms, but also destroyed most of his strength. Now, he was even weaker than Ying Xue. When Ying Xue wasn't on his side, he looked at Ying Xue without any gentleness. Ying Xue found out. Although she was sad, she didn't say anything. She gave Di Chunming a medicine to stop the bleeding and said, I'll buy some more medicine for you. When the day of rotation comes, let's go and get the Rubik's Cube coins. Ming, my body has recovered, and my strength is okay now. Trust me, I can take you out. Di Chunming took the medicine and closed his eyes, not looking at Ying Xue. Schwer wasn't on his side. Everyone in this world had become his enemy. Xieyun, are you okay? Tanguo asked. Xie Yun shook his head and patted his chest. He still had a lingering fear. Fortunately, you came quickly. Otherwise, I might have died. Xie Yun smiled bitterly. If he died, wouldn't everyone in the Rubik's Cube world be implicated? It's good that you learned your lesson. Don't leave your back to anyone in the future. Got it. Xie Yun nodded. He was no longer sleepy. He looked at the dagger in Tanggua's hand. In Xiaofei was still here, so she didn't make a sound. In Xiaofei also walked over. Tanggua, I want to look for my brother and brother Zhangle. The fact that Di Chunming wanted to kill Xie Yun had a huge impact on her. This was no longer the Di Chunming that she knew. He wanted to kill Xie Yun and Tanggua just because they wanted to go out and hide their identities? There was also Zhanglu, right? Zhanglu, Tanggua, and Xie Yun seemed to be the same type of people. She also wanted to ask about the other party's identity. It was time for her to ask. After all, she had to decide whether to stay or leave. After Yin Xiaofei left, Xie Yun and Tanggua returned to their room. Tanggua took out the dull dagger and placed it on the table. Xie Yun asked, Tanggua, how did you do it? Is that guy really trapped? He came to my city of exchanges. Do you still want to go out? Tanggua said with a smile, everything in the city of exchanges is up to me. I can destroy everything with a thought. Who can stop me? Xie Yun came back to his senses. She was right, but something was wrong. Chapter 1629. No, the other party should be very cunning. How could he be trapped in the trade city? After that, he also subconsciously explored other places in the trade city, but he didn't expect that his consciousness couldn't extend out at all. Even if he wanted to move back to the illusion mirror city in an instant, he couldn't. You actually blocked the trade city. When did it happen? When this guy ran in, I locked it. The wooden carved folding fan in Tanggua's hand gently tapped on the dagger, and the dagger broke like an ice cube. What followed was a miserable shriek. Then, a small, dusty figure appeared on the table. From the face, this person was fierce, and the whole soul had a disgusting and evil aura, which made Xie Yun feel very uncomfortable. So you found me long ago? The mysterious soul endured the discomfort of his soul, and his fierce eyes fell on Tanggua. That dagger was originally his divine weapon. After his physical body was destroyed, he attached his soul to it and finally fused with the dagger. When Tanggua controlled the dagger, she could naturally control his soul. Why could the artifact dagger kill the city lord of the magic cube world in an instant? Because his soul and the dagger were the most evil forces in the world. These city lords of the magic cube world were the purest spiritual creatures bred in this world. When the dagger pierced the heart of the spiritual creature, the evil force would pollute their spiritual body, causing them to lose their power. Their souls would be absorbed by the dagger and become his power. The original perfect plan unexpectedly failed. Who are you? Tanggua asked. The mysterious soul was silent for a moment. If I say, will you let me go? No. Tanggua answered quickly, almost without hesitation. The mysterious soul stared at her fiercely. You are the same as those people, planning to suppress me in the magic cube world again, right? I won't tell you who I am, but one day, I will come back, and the magic cube world will be destroyed because of me. I will take my evil beasts and swallow your worlds one by one. You have no chance, Tanggua said, holding her chin. You are really naive, Xie Yun. Naive? No mistake. What are you trying to do? Tanggua raised her wooden fan and said softly, naturally, I'll turn you into ashes. It's better to kill an evil creature like you as soon as possible. What's the point of keeping you alive? Suppressing them is just waiting for them to make a comeback. I won't do something so stupid. Xie Yun. That makes sense. System. Host. Everything you say is true. The mysterious soul did not expect that Tanggua would not ask his name or where he came from. She was also not interested in his background and secrets. Instead of suppressing him, the first thing he said was to turn him into ashes. This was different from those people in the past. While he was still in a daze, Tangua's wooden fan had already landed on his soul. You can't kill me. I have a secret that concerns the survival of your magic cube world. If you kill me, you'll never know this secret. Let me go, and I'll tell you the secret. Tang's wooden fan instantly fell on the soul of the mysterious soul. The moment his consciousness dissipated, he heard Tang say softly, not interested. When the mysterious soul dissipated, the dagger that didn't seem to have an edge also turned into powder. Chapter 1630. He's dead? Xie Yun rubbed his eyes and said in disbelief. Tang replied casually, he's dead. That's it? Xie Yun still couldn't believe it. Tang nodded. That's it. That's too easy, Xie Yun finally said. Really? He thought that it would be a fight to the death. How could it be so easy? The other party is quite strong, but that's only if he's not in my city. In our place, we can suppress the other party's strength. As long as he can't escape, isn't it easy to kill him? Xie Yun felt that it made sense. Then why did he say that someone suppressed him in the past and not killed him? How would I know? Tang rolled her eyes at Xie Yun. At the same time, she removed the seal on the city. At that moment, Gong Wei appeared in front of her and gently pulled her into his arms. He asked in a low voice, what happened just now? I killed a piece of trash. Xie Yun, I don't want to hear it. If that guy is trash, then isn't he the trash of trash? Gong Wei checked her carefully. There were no injuries, and the worry in his eyes dissipated. Tang's slender hand landed on his heart. She laughed softly. Away, your little heart is beating so fast. Xie Yun, peeved. Did she think that he didn't exist? These two? Gong Wei's ears turned slightly red. He said seriously, because I'm afraid. He leaned over and kissed her forehead. I'm afraid that you'll be hurt. I'm afraid that when I come back, you'll be gone. I'm leaving. I won't disturb you. Xie Yun shook his head and walked out. After taking 2 steps, he turned around and waved at Tanghua and Gong Wei. No, this is my room. You should be the ones leaving. At that moment, 2 people walked in. One of them was Junming, whom they were familiar with. Even though he came to the city, the death aura on him couldn't be concealed. The other person was also someone they were familiar with. It was Gu Lin, whom they had been unable to contact. Gu Lin's face was very pale, and he looked a little upset. I'm very sorry. This time it was my fault. I shouldn't have drunk wine from an unknown person. I shouldn't have drunk wine, and I even blurted out a lot of things about the Rubik's Cube world. Gu Lin, tell me what happened. Xie Yun was a bit unhappy. Something big had almost happened in the Magic Cube world. From the sound of it, it was this fellow's oversight. Gu Lin was a pale and weak young man. He walked to the side and sat down, saying, previously, an outsider came to Happiness City. He had some good wine, and I was attracted by the aroma of the wine. He invited me to drink with him, and I couldn't help but agree. I didn't expect the alcohol to be so strong, but I didn't fall asleep immediately. In a daze, I felt that I said something I shouldn't have said. It was too late to react, so I fell asleep at home. Until he glanced at Gong Wei. Gong Wei brought someone to break in and woke me up. At this moment, Xie Yun realized that Gu Lin's body was still wet. Gong Wei was the city lord of Sin City and had many ways to make people sober up. I'm sorry. I'll definitely be able to resist temptation in the future. Luckily, it was a close call this time, Junming said. His gaze fell on Tanghua and Gong Wei. Seeing the 2 of them holding hands, he said, looks like your wedding is coming soon. The Magic Cube world's crisis has been resolved. I'll go back first and come back for your wedding. Chapter 1631. I'll prepare a wedding gift for you. Junming turned and left without talking to anyone else. The others were used to it. Junming didn't like crowded places, especially places like the City of Exchanges where people were the most common. Gu Lin sneaked a glance at where Tanghua and Gong Wei were holding hands. You guys are really together. How magical. Remember to be generous when the time comes, Gong Wei said. Gu Lin's expression was strange. Generous? When did Gong Wei learn to use such a new word? Was he planning to make a fortune when they got married? I got it. Gu Lin naturally wouldn't refuse. After all, They only got married once. So be it as it is. The crisis this time was because of his carelessness. Tangwa solved it. He should thank her properly. That day, Gong Wei went back to prepare for the wedding. At the same time, Zhanglu held In Xiaofei's hand and went to Tangwa. Tangwa, Xiaofei will be with me from now on. I think the city of exchanges is more suitable, so I came to ask you for a good location. We'll settle down in the city of exchanges in the future. In Xiaofei looked a little shy, but it was obvious that she was very happy. Tangwa opened her palm, and a small book appeared in her hand. She casually threw it to Zhanglu. The latter hurriedly caught the book and opened it. Tangwa, you're so generous. You just gave me the property certificate. Take it as my wedding gift to you. Thank you. Zhanglu had solved everything. He held In Xiaofei's hand and pressed her finger on the owner of the property certificate. This is a permanent property certificate. You can stay in the city of exchanges forever. Then, he pressed his finger under the owner of the house, indicating that he was a member of the house. He then handed the property certificate to In Rue and smiled. Brother, put your finger on it. In Rue snorted and pressed his finger on it. It was indeed much safer to stay in the city of exchanges. Brother, I'll go buy a shop. You and In Xiaofei will run it in the future. I'll prepare for the wedding and get married first. Zhang Lu said. Ing Shui and the others have to continue their rotation. It'll be at least 6 months before we meet again. In Rue agreed. Then Zhang Lu happily held In Xiaofei's hand and went to pick out the things for the wedding. He planned to hold his wedding in the city of exchange. Since it was just his fun city, it was better to forget about it. Even though it had been renovated, it was still uncomfortable to live in. The city of trade was perfect for Xiaofei and her brother to live in. Tangwa, when is your wedding? Zhanglu remembered and turned around to ask. Tangwa said, next month, the city lord and the city lord are getting married. It's much more complicated than yours. Zhanglu didn't think too much and left with In Xiaofei. Is the city lord's marriage very complicated? Xie Yun asked. Tangwa nodded. After all, Wei has to tidy up his dowry. He's a city lord after all, so he must have a lot of things. Our status isn't low, so our wedding must be grand. Xie Yun felt that there was nothing wrong with it, although he felt that it didn't make sense. Ever since his hand was broken, Di Chunming had been in low spirits. Even though Ying Xue accompanied him every day, he took advantage of Ying Xue's absence to come to the shop in the city of trade. What do you want to buy? 2 palms. Di Chunming pursed his thin lips. How many Rubik cube coins? The cashier looked up at Di Chunming. Who are you buying the palms for? Chapter 1632. Myself. Di Chunming raised his arm. Because of the special medicine he bought in the city of exchange, his wound had already healed. The cashier glanced at it and shook his head. Sorry, even if you buy the palm, it can't be reattached. Di Chunming almost lost his voice. Why? Didn't they say that one could buy anything in the city of exchange? There was nothing that couldn't be bought, only unexpected. You have been permanently stripped of your palms by the city lord. You can buy anything except your palms. Di Chunming took 2 steps back with a pale face and stepped forward again. I don't believe it. I want to buy it. Why can't I try it? If you want to buy anything else, please tell me. If not, please leave. There are still people queuing behind. Di Chunming could already feel an extremely powerful force surging out from all directions of the shop. That kind of heavy feeling almost made him kneel down. He had no choice but to turn around and leave. But Di Chunming was not willing to give up. He walked gloomily on the street and soon found a person who looked very miserable and almost poor. Help me do something. Di Chunming took out a generous amount of Rubik's Cube coins, and the person he found agreed. That person took the Rubik's Cube coins to the shop and chose another counter. During this half an hour, Di Chunming waited in a corner and scanned the surroundings with a cold gaze. Looking at these people, their faces were full of smiles as they excitedly went to the shop in the city of exchange. He couldn't understand why they were so happy. What was so good about the Rubik's Cube world? The people here were either white mice or small animals for people to watch. Not long after, that person came back with 2 boxes. Looking at the 2 boxes, Di Chunming happily took them in his hands. Okay, you can go. Di Chunming carried the boxes back to the inn excitedly and locked himself in the room. He planned to study how to put his palms on, but after studying for a long time, no matter what he did, there was no way to connect his palms to his arms. He remembered that the cashier said that he had been permanently stripped of his palms by the city lord of the city of exchange, which was Tanghua. He had a bad premonition in his heart. He didn't believe it, but he felt unreconciled if he didn't try. Thus, he went to the streets again. After searching for a long time, he finally found a person whose left palm was severed in the same position as his. He offered his palm to the other person. Under the surprised gaze of this person, he hurriedly took the palm. He dripped a drop of blood onto the seam of his palm from where he had cut the wound. A miraculous thing happened. His palm actually connected itself. In the blink of an eye, the traces of seams disappeared, as if the palm had grown out of his body. Di Chunming had a sudden realization. So this was how to take over the palm. He sent the man away and went back to his room. He did what the man had done and tried again. However, there was no reaction from the palm lying on the table. Ying Xue pushed open the door and saw Di Chunming using a knife to cut a palm into several pieces. She quickly stopped him. "Ah Ming, don't do this. If I don't do this, how can I raise them? I'm the one with a broken arm, not you." Di Chunming pushed Ying Xue away and walked out expressionlessly. Ying Xue knew that there was no way for Di Chunming's hand to recover. If it could be recovered, there was no need for Di Chunming to buy it himself. She would have bought it for him long ago. Chapter 1633. Tanghua knew that Di Chunming had bought a new hand, but she didn't care about it. The current Di Chunming was no longer a threat. Didn't he think that the Rubik's Cube world wasn't good? Why did he place his hopes on her shop in the city of trade after losing his hand? He thought that the Rubik's Cube world wasn't good because he couldn't make use of it or control it. Because there were too many powerful people here. For a person who was used to controlling everything, it must be torturous for him to suddenly lose control of his fate like a piece of duckweed floating in the sea. Di Chunming's torturous days had just begun. He still had a long life ahead of him. Pain would accompany him every day. It would be worse than killing him, especially since Ying Xue would become more outstanding in the future, and Di Chunming would become more and more perverted. One day, the two of them would fall out. When the system heard Tanghua's speculation, it couldn't help but say, "Dear host, you are really heartless. Ying Xue is a kind-hearted and righteous lady." What do you mean by that? Nothing. It just felt that Di Chunming wasn't good enough for her. Regardless of whether he's good enough or not, Ying Xue won't leave Di Chunming at this moment. She still has deep feelings for Di Chunming. But no matter how deep the feelings are, they can't withstand the erosion of time. Especially when one party is giving and accepting, while the other party is working hard. What Di Chunming is using now is what he used to give to Ying Xue. Did the host mean that one day, Ying Xue would leave Di Chunming? How would I know? System. Ha ha ha, you don't know what you're talking about? Look at you. Isn't that what you think? Annoying. No matter how much Di Chunming and Ying Xue quarreled, Yin Xiaofei and Zhang Lu held a grand wedding in the city of trade. Zhang Li's identity naturally wasn't known by outsiders. But those who participated in the wedding knew that this group of people wasn't simple. They all sent their blessings. On the day of the wedding, Di Chunming's face was gloomy. Even though he used to have a good relationship with Yin Rue, he didn't want to send his blessings now. Yin Rue looked at him and didn't say anything. Di Chunming's previous behavior had indeed disappointed him. He was very happy that Di Chunming was still alive. Just like Ying Xue, he understood Di Chunming very well. No matter what he said now, it would be wrong and would only deepen the conflict. Yin Rue didn't say anything to Zhai Chunming, but Zhai Chunming held a wine glass and walked over to Yin Rue. Seeing his actions, Yin Rue was still a little happy. He quickly clinked glasses with Di Chunming. Unexpectedly, Zhai Chunming opened his mouth and said, "Let's end our brotherhood today." The wine cup in Yin Rue's hand trembled. After all, today was his sister's big day. He tried hard to maintain the smile on his face. Chunming, what nonsense are you talking about? Although Di Chunming had done something wrong, the brotherhood between them was real. He also hoped that Di Chenming could think things through and get better in the future. People who walk different paths cannot make plans together. You have already chosen to stay here and give up everything outside to help the people here. What else is there to say between us? Enrich smiled bitterly. Chun Ming, those things in the outside world are just worldly possession. Chapter 1634. Xiaofei has found her happiness, and this place is good. For us siblings, there's no difference. Even if you want to go out, you don't have to break our relationship. Di Chenming's lips curved up in a cold smile. No, you chose to stand on their side. From now on, you have nothing to do with me. Maybe one day, we will become enemies. Enrich, I won't be merciful to you at that time. With that, he drank the wine in one gulp and turned to leave. Yingxue quickly apologized to Enrich and gave Xiaofei a gift before chasing after him. I don't understand. How did Brother Chenming become like that? Xiaofei asked Zhang Lu in a low voice. It was impossible that she didn't know about this. Zhang Lu comforted her. People change every day. When they experience different things, they might change because of something. Since he took the initiative to abandon your friendship, forget it. He's a bit extreme. Don't interact with him in the future. If it weren't for Tanghua having her own plans, they would have already torn Di Chenming's body to shreds and burned his bones to ashes. Di Chenming almost killed Xie Yun, the city lord of the fantasy Jing city. Yingxue and the others also knew this. Thus, they were very glad that Di Chenming was able to survive. Then forget it. Xiaofei was wearing a beautiful bridal dress. Zhang Lu held her hand. Her gaze was fixed on Yingxue's back until she disappeared. Then Yingxue has suffered. Xiaofei, this is her choice. Given the entanglement between her and Di Chenming, she won't leave Di Chenming at this time. She is a loyal person. All right, today is our wedding day. Don't think about other things. We still have many things to do. Xiaofei reacted and her face flushed red. A few days after Zhang Lu and Xiaofei's wedding, the day of the Rubik's Cube's rotation came again. Xiaofei and Enrich were now official residents of the City of Exchange. They didn't have to go through the rotation like the others. Tanghua wasn't in the mood to play anymore. Therefore, this time, only Yingxue and Di Chenming were left to continue the trial. Compared to when he was filled with hope and curiosity, the two of them stood in the square. They were no longer holding hands, as if there was something separating them. When the sky turned dark, Yingxue still grabbed Di Chenming's arm. Ming, trust me, I will take you out. When we get out, we'll get married. Okay? Di Chenming did not respond. He only laughed sarcastically. The sky lit up again, and there were many more people in the square. They came from other cities. Some people were at a loss, while others rushed into the shop excitedly. This time, Fairy Piao and Wanderer Silver Ring did not follow the rotation. They had countless magic cube coins in their hands and could live in the trading city for a long time. They were also friends in Tanghua's WeChat group. With her permission, they were given a place to stay. Although they didn't give Zhang Lu a real estate certificate, it was almost the same. As long as they wanted to live here, they could live here. It's better to be with the campus belle. Wanderer Inhuan happily took a sip of wine. School beauty, when are you and your husband going to have your wedding? In a few days soon, Tanghua replied. Fairy Piao also smiled. School beauty, how long do you plan to stay this time? Chapter 1635. Tanghua was silent for a moment before saying, There are still 20 years. A long time ago, when the original owner died, her lifespan was automatically extended by 20 years. If one's lifespan was long enough, it might not be extended. When one's lifespan was up, there would be an extra 20 years. Silver Ring and Piao Fairy looked at each other. Only 20 years? Why don't you stay longer? If you leave, I think that kid Gongwei will definitely die of thirst. Yeah, that kid is not bad. He's a very good young man. I think you dote on him quite a bit. System. Dote on him? All right, dote on him. He won't. A smile appeared on Tanghua's face. He said that he wants to sign a life and death contract with me. If I die, he will disappear. The two who were still worried instantly fell silent. The two of them looked at each other and almost cursed. Oh, were they being fed dog food again? School beauty, do you know his true identity? Piao Miao Fairy had already felt that Tangua would always meet someone she liked in so many worlds. Most of the time, she would be willing to spend the rest of her life with this person. It was definitely not a coincidence. Through various analyses, she came to a conclusion that this guy who appeared every time should be the same person. However, the other party had no memories. Being able to be with the school beauty depended on the first impression the two of them had when they met and whether they had any grudges. I don't know. Tangua answered truthfully, that's not important. Before he remembers everything, I don't care. Who do I think he is? If he's obedient, then he's good. So, was this another round of dog food? The two of them didn't want to talk and sent Tangwa's words to the group. This bowl of dog food couldn't be eaten by the two of them. If they wanted to eat it, they had to eat it together. Tangua also let them be. This was her rare, long-lasting friend after traveling through time and space for thousands of years. Moreover, they got along very well. Not only did they get along well, but everyone's roles were cannon fodder, which made her feel very close. Margaret, I have a feeling that the school beauty might return to our magic world in a long time. I'm looking forward to it. Harold, same here. Alan, I'm really looking forward to it. Even if we really become cannon fodder, it'll be worth it as long as we can see the campus bell. Emmanuel, so, I can look forward to it. Our star world is not bad. Billy has been sent to kill the galactic pirates again. If he knows about this, he will be happy. Margaret, I hope that a genius will appear in our world soon, the kind that has a grudge against us. Maybe the school bell will become cannon fodder for him. Tangua, is that even possible? System, I've been led astray by my great host. Birds of a feather flock together. If you're free, go to the lottery box and try your luck. Tangua stood up. Chapter 1636. Piao Miao Fairy and Wanderer Silver Ring liked to draw again and again. Therefore, they first put in 1,000 Rubik's Cube coins to test the waters. In order not to be seen by others, they simply set up an array formation around them so that others could not see their movements. Otherwise, when they really pulled out the key, it would cause too much of a sensation. After all, they were relatively low-key people. If their thoughts were known by the people of the Rubik's Cube world, they would definitely laugh at them. The big shots of the cultivation world said that they were very low-key people. To be honest, they did not see that these two were low-key people. As long as they stayed in the Rubik's Cube world for a while, who wouldn't know their names? Tangua knew that these two people must be eager to go. Host, are you going to help them cheat? The system asked secretly. Tangua pursed her lips. What do you mean by cheating? This place is all mine. I just like them and give them 2 keys. Is there a problem? There was nothing wrong with it. The host was right. If you have a good relationship, you can give them keys and property books as you wish. Wanderer Silver Ring and Wanderer Silver Ring held their breaths. When the lottery box shook, they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. When a plate made of ancient bronze appeared in front of them, they were stunned. Key? Regardless of whether it was a key or not, they hurriedly put it away. Their little hearts were still beating wildly. The two of them hurriedly went back and found Tangua. After confirming that the bronze plate was the key, they had mixed feelings for a moment. They were not as eager to go out as they were at the beginning. Let's stay for another 20 years. 20 years more or 20 years less wouldn't change anything. They knew very well that. 5 days later, Tangua and Gongwei got married. The trading city was unprecedentedly lively. On that day, the outsiders of the Rubik's Cube world all found that they had 10,000 more Rubik's Cube coins. Those who understood something. They couldn't help but look at Tangua and Gongwei with reverence. Those who didn't understand were trembling with fear as they held the 10,000 Rubik's Cube coins. At the wedding, many people sent precious gifts and sincerely wished them well. Tangua was wearing a bridal gown, and the Gongwei was holding her hand. Gongwei held her hand and felt that this was the most at ease in his life. Holding her hand was like holding the whole world. Junming arrived late. He was also holding an ancient box. He walked in front of Tanghua and Gong Wei. There's nothing to say. This is my gift to you. Open it and see if you like it. Hearing this, Tanghua and Gong Wei stepped forward at the same time and put their hands on the box. The two of them looked at each other. Finally, Gong Wei said, "Let me do it." Tanghua released her hand and Gong Wei slowly opened the box. A smile appeared on Tanghua's red lips. At the same time, I'd like to announce a piece of good news. In order to celebrate my marriage with Ah Wei, I've decided to increase the chances of drawing a key from the lottery box. However, there's an additional condition. Those who choose to leave will forever be deprived of the right to enter again. She looked at Xie Yun and the rest. You guys don't have any objections, right? The few of them looked at each other and shook their heads. What objections did they have? They didn't have any objections at all. Hadn't she already decided? However, this was also good. Spreading the news of the Magic Cube world and attracting more people would be beneficial to the Magic Cube world. That additional condition really couldn't be any better. The rules you laid down won't have any effect on our Magic Cube world. Instead, it will attract many people to come here and explore. The reason why the Magic Cube world was able to operate was because countless people were willing to enter. The people here seemed to be happier than the people in Happiness City. Gu Lin's face was still pale. This was because he often hid under the happiness tree, sleeping soundly and not being able to see the sun all year round. Basically, every 6 months, Tanghua would see Yi Yingxue and Di Qinming appear in the trading city. Yi Yingxue would greet her, and Tanghua would casually ask, "How are you?" Chapter 1639. It's all right. After knowing that the lottery rate had increased, Yi Yingxue was even more motivated. Oh, that's good. Tanghua smiled and held Gong Wei's hand. Keep an eye on Di Qinming. The rules of the Rubik's Cube world have changed. If he does anything that harms the Rubik's Cube world, he will be targeted by the power here. System. He felt that the host had purposely created this rule to torture Di Qinming. Yi Yingxue replied, "I will take him away as soon as possible. I won't cause any more trouble here." Tanghua turned around and smiled. Actually, I hope that you can stay. Di Qinming is not suitable here. You are quite suitable. Actually, I quite like this place too. Yi Yingxue smiled. But I have to take Ming away from here. Then I wish you success. After Tanghua left, Yi Yingxue's smile disappeared. She wanted to take Ming away, but Ming might not think the same way. The current Ming was different from before. There was no gentleness in his eyes when he looked at her, but she would definitely do what she promised. On the day of their wedding, Tanghua and Gong Wei were bound to a life and death contract. On this day, Gong Wei returned to Sin City for some matters. It would have taken him 3 to 5 days, but he returned on the same day. As soon as he stepped into the city of exchange, he saw Tanghua waiting there. "Xiaogua, were you waiting for me?" Gong Wei went forward and hugged her tightly in his arms. He said happily, "Xiaogua, you little liar. Luckily, I was smart enough to sign a life and death contract with you. Otherwise, would you have abandoned me and left me? You brought me into the prosperous world, but now you want to abandon me and send me to a lonely world. How cruel." Tanghua laughed and patted his face. "Away, if you continue to nag, you will sleep on the floor tonight." Xiaogua. Gong Wei remembered everything he saw when he returned to Sin City. He whispered in her ear, "The new city lord of Sin City is already in the process of being conceived. Is it the same in the city of exchange?" Tanghua nodded. "Away, I am not a liar. Even if you did not sign a life and death contract with me, I will tell you when I will leave. How many years are left?" 19 years. It's all right." Gong Wei forced a smile on his serious face. "Let's live well in the coming days." Not long after, the other city lords also found out about this. They could only sigh and say nothing else. 10 years later, the new city lord of Death City was born. He was a cold and aloof young man in black. The boy had just been born when Junming died. Before he died, he had a premonition. He originally wanted to see Tanghua, but he was told, "The city lord doesn't want to see you." He even said that if you want to die, then die quickly. If you die with grievances, the city lord will hold a banquet for 3 days to celebrate. These words really made Junming faint from anger. Not long after Junming's death, Ying Shue and Di Qinming both drew a key to leave. Ying Shue came to bid farewell to Tanghua and asked her to bring Di Qinming out. Tanghua smiled and wished her a safe journey. "Ah Ming, let's go out." Ying Shue had already dripped a drop of blood on it. The power of the teleportation instantly blessed her. Di Qinming only looked at her gloomily. He lowered his head and looked at the key in his iron claws. He threw it far away. "If you want to go out, then go out alone. I will definitely not go out until I destroy the Rubik's Cube world." Ying Shue didn't expect the result to be like this. Under her incredulous gaze, she was teleported out. Di Qinming laughed. Go out for what? He had lost both his hands. Wouldn't he be laughed at if he went out? Unless, he could only go out after he regained his hands. It was easy to draw the key now. He could afford to wait. But before he could finish rejoicing, a dignified voice came from the sky. Di Qinming abandoned the key to open the Rubik's Cube world and did something that insulted the Rubik's Cube world. The city lord announces that Di Qinming will be deprived of the chance to obtain the key forever. In an instant, Di Qinming's face turned pale. How could it be? Gong Wei was in the house, wrapping his arms around Tanghua's waist. "Xiaoguo, you are too naughty." It's him who doesn't cherish the opportunity. He looks like he doesn't like it but wants it. How annoying. Piao Fairy and Wanderer In Huan heard the commotion and laughed happily. Chapter 1640. When Tanghua and Gong Wei disappeared from the Rubik's Cube world at the same time, Di Qinming was targeted by the new rules of the Rubik's Cube world. It was different from what he thought. He thought that even if he couldn't get out, at least he wouldn't do too badly. He underestimated the power of the Rubik's Cube world. In the end, countless latecomers surpassed him. Di Qinming would forever stay in the Rubik's Cube world, surpassed by countless people, and live in pain forever. Not long after Tanghua left, Silver Ring and Fairy Piao opened the door to the Rubik's Cube world and left. When Tanghua opened her eyes and appeared in the new world, she was lying on a single bed. She looked around. This looked like a 4-person dormitory for university students. Below was a desk, and above was a bed. At this moment, her roommates weren't here. She first opened the group to ask how Fairy Piao and Silver Ring were doing. Coincidentally, these two were also here. However, she didn't know how much time had passed in between. "Fairy Piao, I've been back in the sect for almost 10 years. It's just as I thought. Nothing has changed in more than 1,000 years. Not to mention the sect, there aren't many cultivators left. The spiritual energy here is almost gone. I was planning to open a passage to other cultivation worlds after a while. Silver Ring, if possible, come to my place. Junior sister has already found someone else and is doing very well now. Thus, I don't plan to disturb her to avoid trouble. Sister Piao, come over. At least we can go to the celestial world together." She could tell that Silver Ring was just sighing and didn't have much regret. After so long, even if he liked Junior sister very much, after not seeing her for so many years, what was left was actually just responsibility. "Fairy Piao, okay, I'll think of a way to see if I can come over. But we have to wait for a while. When the time comes, I'll bring someone over." Tanghua couldn't help but ask, "Piao, did you take in a disciple in that place?" Fairy Piao, yes, I took in a disciple. He's a good seedling. He saw through relationships and wholeheartedly pursued the immortal Tao. His future achievements will definitely not be low. As long as there is enough spiritual energy, ascending to the celestial world is just around the corner. Inhuan, that's good. It's rare for you to admire someone so much. This is the second time I've heard you praise someone like that. Following which, the people in the group saw Piao Fairy send a series of happy emojis. In the end, she even sent a picture with the caption, "This is my new disciple." When Tanghua and Wanderer Inhuan saw the woman's face, they were both stunned. Because the beautiful woman cooking in the kitchen was Yi Ingxue, Inhuan Sanren. So it's that girl. You got what you wanted. Tanghua. I didn't expect that. Tanghua said goodbye to the others and left the group. While no one was around, she began to receive the storyline of this world. In this world, she didn't have any grudges with the male and female leads. They only had some interactions, but they weren't familiar with each other. The female lead was her roommate. Her name was Long Ruafei. Just like her surname, she was a very cold person. Basically, she was the kind of person who didn't care about anything and only had her own world in her eyes. No one could enter her circle. As for her character, if she had to be given a title, she could be called Miss Hao Hao. Why Miss Hao Hao? Because no matter who asked her for help, she would agree. Chapter 1641. Even if she was busy and inconvenient at the time, she couldn't reject other people's requests. She had been like this since she started school. This personality was because she grew up in a family where she didn't have a sense of existence. Her family valued boys over girls. Her parents seemed to treat her well, but in reality, they didn't value her at all. Before she went to university, she was a day student. She had to wake up in the morning to cook breakfast for the family. She would be happy for half a day if she received a compliment. After school, she had to cook dinner for the family again. If she was a little late, her parents would scold her. If it was an ordinary girl, she would definitely talk back to her parents on the spot. However, she grew up under the education of her parents. Since she was young, she thought that she was born to owe her parents. Doing these small things was what she should do. Because she came home late and didn't have time to open on time, she was scolded. She wouldn't blame her parents. Instead, she would think that she was wrong. She didn't know how to speak and only knew how to work hard. In her world, there was a truth. There were no parents in the world. What her parents did and said was always right. Ever since her younger brother, Tang Xiaoquan, was born, her parents' attention was on him. Her parents always told her that her younger brother was young, so she should give in and treat him well for the rest of her life. This was what an older sister should do. She believed it. She thought that if she was liked by her parents, they would care more about her. This kind of character had led her through her entire life. At first, when her classmates asked her for help, they would say please. After helping, they would say thank you. Once or twice, everyone was very polite. However, when it happened many times, everyone got used to it and thought that it was her duty to do these things. If there was a day when she didn't do it, it was her fault. For example, when she was in primary school, she wiped the blackboard for 6 years. She would arrange for the students on duty every day. Ever since everyone got used to asking her for help, it seemed like it was her business. Sometimes, when the blackboard wasn't wiped in time, the teacher would directly blame her and not the student on duty. During exams, people would often ask her to pass a small note. If she did badly, she couldn't avoid a scolding. She felt quite guilty and had to use her little pocket money to buy snacks to apologize to her classmates. When she was in high school, she was nervous about her studies. Her classmates asked her to borrow her notes. As she borrowed them, the notes became theirs. She was embarrassed to ask them back and could only say that she wanted to make a copy. She had been trying her best to treat everyone well, but in the end, no one remembered her kindness. When he needed her, he would call her affectionately. When he didn't need her, he would ignore her. Now it was the second semester of university. The original owner's character had been discovered by the people in the dormitory and class. Last semester, the original owner brought back a lot of free food for these people. It was one thing for him to bring it, but he didn't even give her money. The host was too embarrassed to ask for it. 10 or 20 pieces at a time wasn't much. But if he wore it for 1 or 2 days, or even every day, who could bear it? What was even weirder was that if she didn't help him, she would feel guilty. Tanghua roughly skimmed through the life of the original owner and did not intend to slowly savor the story of the steamed bun. She could already hear someone knocking on the door. Tanghua, open the door. Host, your roommate seems to have forgotten to bring his keys and wants you to open the door. The system gloated. He hadn't seen Steamed Bun's character in a long time. Chapter 1643. Hu Xiaolan didn't take advantage of her and even suffered a loss. She didn't want to say anything to Tanguo anymore. Although she wasn't the kind of person who would fall out with others over a small matter, her tone was still not very nice. When she turned around, she reminded Tanguo, "Don't listen to music with your headphones in the future. It's not good for your ears." If the original owner heard that Hu Xiaolan didn't blame her for not opening the door for her and even cared that it wasn't good for her to listen to music with headphones, she would definitely be touched and feel guilty. She might even take out the hard work in the cupboard and share it with Hu Xiaolan. "Okay, I just listened to it for a while. It shouldn't affect me," Tanguo said as if she didn't notice Hu Xiaolan's bad tone just now. She also reminded her, "Hu Xiaolan, if you don't have your keys next time and can't open the door, you can ask the door manager for a spare key." Hu Xiaolan, did she not have her keys? This Tanguo was really annoying. She insisted on listening to music with her headphones and playing it so loudly. "Okay, I know." Hu Xiaolan climbed onto the bed and started playing with her phone. Tanguo didn't care. She glanced at the door and turned on her phone to check the time. It was almost 1 o'clock. The others in the dormitory were about to come back. The only people who didn't come back were Gao Lily and Lung Ruofei. Lung Ruofei was cold to everyone. If others didn't cause her trouble, she wouldn't cause trouble for others either. For example, Lung Ruofei would never knock on the door without a key. Gao Lily was different. If Hu Xiaolan had her keys and pretended not to, she would always ask others to open the door for her. Gao Lily was just too lazy to bring her keys. Anyway, the original owner would return to the dormitory before them. She could just wake her up and open the door. Last semester, the original owner opened the door for them every day. If she used the excuse of listening to music to not open the door for Gao Lily, it would be too obvious. So Tanguo closed the curtains and got out of bed. She washed her face and put on some skincare products. She put on her shoes and socks and prepared to go out with her bag. "Tanguo, are you going to the street?" Outside almost every university, there would be a few food streets. The classes for the first and second years were relatively easy. The schedule was almost full, so there was plenty of time. Hu Xiaolan looked at Tanguo and thought that she was going out, so she asked her to bring some food in. "When you come back later, bring me a serving of hot and sour fried potatoes. I want Li Ji's. It's from the stall opposite the roast duck leg." Hu Xiaolan stuck her head out and said, "Add more millet and vinegar. No onions." Tanguo raised her head and a warm smile appeared on her fair face. "I'm not going out." Hu Xiaolan was stunned. "If you're not going out, then where are you going?" "Let's go to the library to look for information." "Then, will you still go out after the investigation?" Hu Xiaolan asked unwillingly. Tanguo shook her head. "I'm not going out. I still have a class in the afternoon. After that, I'll go straight to the classroom." She raised the book in her hand and said, "Look, I brought all the books with me so that I don't have to make a trip back. It saves me a lot of time and effort." Seeing that Tanguo was telling the truth, Hu Xiaolan's face darkened and she didn't say anything else. Because Tanguo's reasons were too good, she still cared about her reputation. She didn't want to say that she was going out to buy hot and sour fried potatoes for her. If other people found out, she wouldn't be in the right. Chapter 1644. Do you have any other questions? Tanguo's face was full of concern. "Why don't you come with me to the library? It's boring in the dormitory anyway." System. He could guarantee that the host didn't invite Hu Xiaolan to the library out of kindness. Oh, he remembered now. Gao Lily, who never brought her keys, was coming back soon. After bringing Hu Xiaolan to the library, no one opened the door for Gao Lily. As for Long Ruofei, no one could be sure if she would come back immediately. "No, the weather is still a little cold. The library is too cold. I'm not going. You go ahead." "Okay, Hu Xiaolan, are you sure there's no other questions?" Tanguo asked again. "I'll turn off my phone when I get to the library. First, I want to read the information carefully so that my phone won't distract me. Second, I don't want my phone to suddenly ring and cause trouble for others. I'll feel very bad if that happens." "It's okay. Just turn off your phone." Hu Xiaolan thought to herself. Who would call Tangwa for no reason? There were so many people in the library who didn't turn off their phones. It was really making a mountain out of a molehill. Only people like Tangwa would be so stupid to think about others. System. Idiot. Of course, the host didn't turn off her phone for anyone else's sake. She wanted you to testify for her as to why she turned off her phone. Second, she was afraid that Gao Lily didn't bring her keys back. If no one answered when she knocked on the door, she would call her directly. Just like that, Tangwa opened the dormitory door with a smile and walked towards the library. She didn't want to be friends with people like Hu Xiaolan and Gao Lily. However, she couldn't let others think that she was particularly mean. It was just superficial work. She knew how to move her lips and say a few words that were for their own good. Because of these two roommates, the original owner's university life wasn't good. The two of them let the original owner bring all kinds of snacks for free. In the last year, they went out for an internship, so there was no need to mention it. In the first 3 years, the sum was still a huge sum. For office workers, it wasn't much at all. But for the original owner, who was a student, this money was basically her part-time job on weekends and holidays. As for her parents, they gave her a monthly allowance of 600 yuan. If it was in a small county town, 600 yuan would be enough if they were frugal. After all, the food in the cafeteria was considered cheap. However, the location of this school was in a quasi-first-tier city, and it was in the city center. 600 yuan was just enough to eat. The original owner's parents taught her that college students had to work while studying. If she wanted to buy something, she had to find her own way. Regarding this, the host had no complaints. She believed that her parents were right to cook. Therefore, she really did use her spare time to do part-time jobs. Compared to other students, her hands were still relatively free. If it weren't for the fact that she couldn't refuse, her life would have been perfect. In fact, her family was quite well off. Her parents' combined salary was about 20,000 yuan, close to 30,000 yuan. She had never heard of it. Her parents' combined salary was close to 30,000 yuan, but they only gave their daughter, who was studying in a university in a quasi-first-tier city, 600 yuan a month. Usually, they did not care about her at all. They did not worry about her life or death. They were completely in a free-range state. Only when she was on holiday would her parents call her and ask her to go back early. Why would he go back? First, she had to tutor her younger brother. Secondly, she had to cook for her family. Chapter 1645. Besides these two things, she also had to find a part-time job during the holidays. It could be said that she had almost no time for herself. Fortunately, although there were many bad people in this world, there were still good people. There was a clothing store owner who admired a down-to-earth, hard-working, and honest young lady like her. Hence, every year during the holidays, she would work in this store. While she was thinking, Tangwa had already arrived at the library. She had already switched off her cell phone on the way there. Switching off her cell phone would not affect any social interaction at all. If she switched off her cell phone every day, she would probably be able to avoid more trouble. This was because when her cell phone rang, it was not because someone missed her and wanted to ask her how she was, but because they wanted to ask her for help. Who asked her to be so warm-hearted and would always help them. She even did it perfectly. Speaking of which, it's funny. She has helped countless people, but when she was at her wit's end, none of the numbers in her cell phone actually worked. Because she was too good. So good that she had no ego. It was not desirable to sacrifice oneself for others. Tongzi, not bad. You actually came to such a conclusion. Didn't the great host say that people were especially despicable? No matter what kind of role it was, if it was obtained easily, it would not be valued. Tangwa found a more secluded spot. The weather was still a little cold, and in the afternoon, it was the time when she felt sleepy. It was not the end of the semester yet. Other than the students who liked to go outside, there were fewer people in the library. She picked a few books that she was interested in and started to read them silently. Half an hour after Tangwa left the dormitory, the tall and slender Gao Lily had already walked to the door of the dormitory. As usual, she knocked hard on the door. Tangwa, open the door for me. She only knocked twice. Under normal circumstances, Tangwa would open the door for her within a minute. However, After waiting for 2 minutes, Tangwa did not come out. She had no choice but to knock again. There was still no answer. She knocked again, but there was still no answer. Open the door. Gao Lily shouted a few times. In the end, she had no choice but to take out her cell phone. With a face full of anger, she searched for Tangwa's cell phone number and dialed it. Sorry, the number you have dialed is switched off. Gao Lily was a little dumbfounded. She had called Tangwa so many times, but she had never thought that her phone would be turned off. She refused to believe it and called him twice more, but his phone was still turned off. At that time, he was in a bad mood and had no choice but to find the phone numbers of his other two roommates. Looking at Long Ruafei's phone, she shuddered and didn't dare to call her. Even if she did, with Long Ruafei's character, she probably wouldn't come back to open the door for her. She had no choice but to call Hu Xiaolan. She had just dialed the number when she heard the ringtone coming from the dormitory. Her expression changed again. Hu Xiaolan was in a daze when she heard a call. She quickly picked up the phone. Xiaolan, open the door for me. Lily, you didn't bring your key? No, please open it for me. Hu Xiaolan woke up and was a little impatient. However, she remembered that Gao Lily was closer to her, so she had no choice but to get out of bed and open the door. Gao Lily asked, Where's Tangwa? She's not in the dormitory. Where did she go? Why is her phone turned off? She went to the library. She said that she wanted to look for information. She even told me that she was afraid of disturbing others, so she turned off her phone. Hu Xiaolan's smile was full of sarcasm. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.